This meeting is called to order at 7:01 p.m. Good evening. This is a regular meeting of the Ferndale School Board of Education being held on Monday, November 18th, 2024. Our meeting is being video recorded and will be posted on the Ferndale Schools YouTube channel. All meetings in the Ferndale Schools are held in public in compliance with the Open Meetings Act. Printed documents discussed in tonight's meeting are available to the public upon request, with the exception of any information protected by student or employee privacy rights. Board meeting information is posted on our website at www.ferndaleschools.org. If you do not have internet access and need information, please contact the board offices at 248-586-8652 by Thursday of the week prior to the meeting, and the district staff will do their best to work with you. Item 1.1, roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Seglarek.
Here.
Eltart.
Here.
Hart. Here. Latash. Here. Turner.
Here.
President Duty.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 1.2, approval of the agenda. After review of the agenda, are there any items that anyone wants to update? Then without objection and with unanimous consent, the agenda is approved. Item 2, presentation of building Ferndale Early Childhood Center. Mrs. Schmidt, the director.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for having me. Nice to see everyone. Now that the board was moved, I might have to move a little bit. I printed out, and the problem is I put 2 slides per page in case I couldn't see, but I'm worried I can't see this either. So if I move, that's why. My eyes are not working for me. But thank you for having me. For those of you that don't know, I am Heidi Schmidt. I am the proud director of Ferndale Early Childhood Center, and I am here tonight to share a little bit about what is going on in the building and what we have planned this year that align with the 5 pillars for the district. So first and foremost, with self-reflection, what we have been doing at FECC is really looking to our vision. With self-reflecting, looking at it, this is what we say we're going to do, this is what we say we're going to provide to families, to students, to staff. Are we living it? Are we truly doing it? And then looking at how can we improve as individuals and collectively. So how we're kind of doing that, there are some things in place. With staff meetings, we are building in vision review. Not something that we have done in the past, but really making sure that if that's what we're living by, we need to make sure that we are constantly and continually reviewing it. So being able to build that in, built-in opportunity for reflection, whether that is questions posed by me, looking at data, but always looking for what do we have in front of us, what is the data telling us, what are our stakeholders telling us, and how can we improve, as well as our working agreements and staff charter. So going back to what can we do better, not only for our students and our families, but collectively as a staff. How can we put our best selves forward? As well as goal setting. Obviously, self-reflection is a really big component of goal setting. We do that both individually and as a group. We place goals that are practice-based, instructional-based, but as well as data-focused. And then these are supported not only by the district admin level and myself, building admin level, but also our early childhood specialist. So how do we want to improve our classrooms? How do we want to improve our building? How do we want to improve program by program? But really looking at setting those goals, reflecting on what we're doing and what we can do to move forward. New and or up and coming that we're kind of putting in place this year. Along with the district, we are looking at all of our staff signing up and being involved in restorative practice cohorts. I place this under self-reflection because obviously early childhood looks different than all other levels. And, throughout the year, you're going to have other building admins standing up here, and their restorative practice might be more focused on students, right? Getting the students involved in conflict resolution, self-reflection, and things like that. While that's important, and we do that in a developmentally appropriate way, we're really looking at restorative practices at the staff level to be able to have those hard conversations, those conversations where there might be disagreement and we have to refocus to our vision, and be able to say, this is why we're here, this is what we're doing, and be able to move forward. Monthly team check-ins, I myself have been making it a priority to go to each teaching team, really trying on a monthly basis, but being able to sit down with them without the formality of a staff meeting or an evaluation meeting, but to sit down and have the conversation with what's going well. What do you need from me? What do you need personally to be able to be the best that we can be? And then also reflecting on our building level program offerings. So this year we had a change that some of you may know about, and we kind of went the route of pre-K for all. And 2 of our tuition-based classrooms were transitioned into GSRP 5-day classrooms. The need and the interest in those classrooms were paramount. We are running on wait lists. So that just tells us that the community and our families have a need that possibly wasn't being met previously. So just reflecting on what are we offering, what's available, what can we offer to better meet the needs of our students, families, and community. As far as transparency goes, what does it look like at FECC? We are looking at informing, educating, and communicating. Informing, that is done in multiple ways, and a lot of this overlaps. When I was working on this, I was like, oh, but that could go in that slide, but that could go here. So much of it is intertwined, but informing, as far as myself and staff, I do a weekly e-memo that just kind of gets everybody on the same page, lets them know what's forthcoming, what we're working on, what needs to be done. Monthly director newsletters to the building and the families as a whole. Posted lesson plans outside of classrooms. One of the things that we struggle with in early childhood is the responsibility of communicating that early childhood is different from childcare. And there is intentionality and there is purpose behind what we're doing. And families are not just dropping off their children for childcare that day, that our teachers have gotten to know the students, have looked at data, and have planned lessons to meet them where they're at and to get them where they're going or where they need them to be. And one of the parts of that is posting lesson plans so that families can see that the intentionality and the purpose behind those the day. And then District eBlast, I have been strongly encouraging, and we have been trying at the Early Childhood Center to be seen in the eBlast as much as possible, so that families and the community know that there's a lot of great things going on at the Early Childhood Center, and it is intentional, and it is teaching and learning. As far as educating, one of our focuses that we've been doing for the last few years have been having walls that talk and teach. So it's really nice to walk down the hallway of a school and see all the beautiful work that's happening. And in Early childhood, going back to what I said earlier, it's really easy to think that, oh, they did these cutesy crafts and, they made this and they did this, but we really want families to know the intention and the purpose behind everything that we're doing in the classroom. So when you walk down the hallways of FECC and you look at any of our classroom bulletin boards, you're not only going to see evidence of student work and learning, which out of context could just look cute and fun, but you are going to see the KDIs, the key developmental indicators that the teachers were working towards, right? Their objectives for that lesson. You are going to see student quotes. You're going to see pictures of the students engaged in the work. And that is, again, to communicate and to educate with any visitor in the building that early childhood is intentional teaching and learning. Best practices and how-tos in our weekly newsletters. You may see sharing of early childhood best practices. You will see support to families at home on how to best support your child in learning. We have teachers that will send home in their weekly newsletter. I'm a parent. Many of us here are parents. You know the answer to the question of what did you learn in school today is a whole lot of nothing. You're even more apt to get that the younger they are. So having specific questions to ask your children. So if a classroom was focusing on apple orchards and fall and things like that, the teacher will give specific questions directly related to the learning in the classroom, so that parents are more likely to get an answer that is not nothing, but that leads to more rich conversation. And then resource sharing. At this age level, there are a lot of conversations that happen about meeting milestones and developmental appropriateness. So making sure that we are sharing with families ways and things to deal with struggles that they're having or to support their child at home. But just if a child might need, help with potty training or help following a schedule, making sure that we have the resources that we can share with them. That might mean sharing a social story they can use at home, sharing a visual schedule that they can use at home, or just sharing an article that notes that, yes, biting is developmentally appropriate, but here's how we can handle it and address it and hopefully move towards more appropriate ways of problem solving. And then communication. We utilize our Caneboo app for daily communication. One thing that is really different and I think a true benefit of early childhood is we have the perk, the advantage that our families are walking into the building every single day to drop off their child and walking back in to pick them up. So we do get a lot of one-on-one time that you may not in older grades, but for those that can't, or for children that have, more than one household, making sure that we're communicating daily with Caneboo, not only with student progress, but pictures, videos of students, KDIs, what they have been able to do, what they're now able to do. Classroom weekly newsletters. Each classroom sends home a weekly newsletter communicating and informing and educating of all the happenings, as well as our home visits and parent-teacher conferences that happen. New and or upcoming, we are looking at reinstating our coffee and conversations. This was something that we did pre-COVID, and it kind of fell off, and we're looking at putting it back in, and that is just providing an informal opportunity for families to stop by, network with other families, but ask questions of resources in the building, voice any concerns, get any help for anything that they need. And then transparency, school-wide expectations. This year, our leadership team is working on really promoting the school-wide expectations of be safe, be kind, and be responsible, so that everybody is on the same page and knows what the expectations are at FECC. Attendance. Attendance is a tricky one in early childhood. I'm going to be honest. And quite frankly, complete transparency, it is because preschool is not required, right? It's not required. So in the grand scheme of things, with families that have so much on their plate, so many other things that they're prioritizing, so many other things that are required, a lot of times dropping your 3-year-old or 4-year-old off at school can fall off. And that's something that we have to balance. We have to balance communicating that early childhood is important. Yes, it's not required, but the long-term impact and what your child is getting from being there, it's monumental. Showing up in preschool matters. Research shows that preschoolers who miss 10% or more of the school year, so that is just 2 days per month, arrive in kindergarten with lower levels of school readiness. So what we have done, kind of put in place at FECC, you will see drop-off and pick-up windows. We understand that families have to get multiple kids to school at multiple buildings, and while we are a smaller district, if we're all starting at the same time, someone's going to be late, right? And we want to acknowledge that, and I want to say, yes, get your second grader to school on time, get your 7th grader to school on time, but please get your preschooler here. Better late than never, right? It doesn't matter if we're living into the vision. It doesn't matter what we are doing to help all of our students prepare for the next level if they're not here. I would rather a student be late because of X, Y, and Z than not come at all. So we have acknowledged and realized that there's kind of a pyramid model, tiers system of attendance. Tier 1 is first and foremost, we have to make our students and our families want to be here, okay? How is that done? It's creating a warm, welcoming environment for everybody. We have to educate and communicate the importance of attendance. So like I said, yes, get your 7th grader to school on time. But please do not think that because school started at 8:30, we're late, we're not going to come. Every minute that your child is in that classroom is so impactful to their future school journey. And then monitoring attendance, right? So taking attendance every day, monitoring who is having attendance issues, who's struggling, who is not, for some reason or another, being able to make it here when they should be. Tier 2, providing personalized outreach to families. So at the first level, it is, if we don't get a call, it is teachers reaching out. You know, we missed Heidi today at school. Is everything okay? Is there anything we can do to support? And then identifying and addressing those attendance barriers. Is it because I have 3 other kids to get to school and school starts at 8:30 and at that point we're late? Is it that there's transportation issues? Is it that, you know, the child is sharing something that they are not feeling comfortable or safe at school? And then working with families to develop an action plan for attendance. And then tier 3, this is for our students that, you know, are not here more than they are, but really tapping into our resources and finding wraparound services and supports for these families. putting everything out there. What can we do to get these families to and these children to be in school? New and or upcoming. Previously, we have partnered with MDHHS's Pathways to Potentials program, and we had a caseworker in the building that was monitoring our student attendance, was reaching out to the families, was doing all of that behind the scenes work. As of recently this year, Pathways to Potentials no longer includes early childhood. So while we still have our caseworker in the building, they're not doing that nitty-gritty, data collection and reaching out. So this year, we're going to really be focusing on, as a staff, how do we pick up that gap that Pathways used to do for us, and making sure that we are getting everybody here. All right. Collaboration. Early childhood education is a community effort. One of the main things in the building that we're really trying to increase and grow upon is shared leadership. This is the first year that FECC has had a formal leadership team that is coming together to work on building initiatives, building concerns, taking that data and really looking at what can we do, that self-reflection piece, that building reflection piece. What can we do as an FECC school family to get better and better meet the needs of our families? We have our student success team and our MTSS team. Staff-led trainings and initiatives. If there's something that they feel passionate about or something that they are excelling in or something that they are interested in and they want to take the reins and go for it, by all means. And then our Head Start Policy Committee, which is required by the Head Start grant, but it is a group of people that come together to discuss policy, discuss processes, procedures, and really help us with a different perspective. Partnerships, as I mentioned, it is a community effort. And we cannot do this alone, and the more people we have enhancing our children's education, the better. So some of the things that we are doing within the district themselves are monthly STEM lessons. Ms. Kelsey Perkins, our technology specialist with Ferndale Schools, she has been coming over monthly and leading STEM lessons with the students that have by far been their favorite times of the month, absolutely. Ferndale Area District Library, we not only communicate with them for early learning fairs and recruitment, but the youth librarian comes over once a month to do story time with us. Life Lab and Special Olympics, we have been partnering for a young athletes program where a group of our students, both those with disabilities and without, have been going to Life Lab to work with therapists and counselors and working on teamwork, sports skills, and all of things like that. And then Oakland Schools as well, partnering for training support, behavior support, just to enhance and build our capacity better. New and or up and coming, we are working on really carving out time within our schedules to have peer observations. So allowing teachers to get coverage to get out of their classrooms and into their colleagues' classrooms, to see instructional practice in action that really connects with the self-reflection piece when you see that. Our monthly half days. So for our GSRP and Head Start programs that were 4-day programs, Fridays are set aside for teacher collaboration, professional development, lesson planning, etc. Having the 5-day program now, as well as our tuition-based program, we have half of the building that didn't have that time. And we really wanted to provide an opportunity for all staff to come together and to collaborate and to be able to work together on how do we better improve. And then this year we are also, we've run out, straight out of the gate with early on pre-K transitions. We have been working along with Oakland Schools, really looking at our processes from our early on special ed program to transitioning to pre-K programs, whether that's a gen ed classroom without support, a gen ed classroom with support, but really looking at what our process is. So we have just on Election Day had a training on that and some different tools, and then we have our team signed up for further training in January to really look at making sure that we're making the best choice for student placement for further success. All right. Data as a flashlight, looking at data to identify opportunity for growth. Identify opportunity for growth and to illuminate our wins. At early childhood, while we do not participate in state testing and all of that, we do have various sources of data that we are continually collecting. Child observation record, or CORE, that is, I've mentioned a few times, KDIs and the key developmental indicators. Teachers are continually collecting anecdotal notes and planning lessons and providing instruction that takes students from one level to the next. So looking at that data, where did our students start? Where are they going? Where do we want them to be? The Ages and Stages questionnaire, that is also known as the ASQ. That is something that we do when students first start. The teachers will do it at the home visits with the students. And that gives us a baseline for when our students are coming into us, where are they now? It allows us the opportunity to, buys us time. We can meet them where they're at right from the beginning. Our DECA for social emotional awareness, looking at attendance data. Perception surveys, both families and staff, and then our class observations. And class observations are done by a observer that comes in, and they use the class tool, and they are really looking at adult and child interactions. They'll look at how the environment is, positive interactions. They will look at instructional support, academic development. So we have a lot of sources of data that we gather and can look at. And then as far as data increasing capacity, so we do building-wide data digs 3 times a year, while upper grades may have quarters. We do our core data. We have 3 periods. So at the end of each period, we will do a data dig. Data will guide lesson planning and individualization. So teachers are looking at what kind of data they're collecting from their students and what does that mean for next week's lesson, right? What does it mean for, my student Heidi that is still struggling with X? And they will use that data to plan forward. And then core reliability training. With CORE, we take anecdotal notes and then you input them into a system, and then the teachers have the responsibility of scoring them. And when you score them, that is kind of what gives you that data of where the child is at. Obviously, looking at data, it's really important that the data is as accurate as possible. So going over to the new and/or up and coming, the last one, middle one, I'm sorry, is core focused PLC, focused on building alignment. We're really focusing on does every single staff member, every single teacher have the same idea of what a high quality note is, because that's the data we're collecting. But two, how would you score that high quality note? So just like we don't want our data to be biased, we want it to be as straightforward as possible. So we're really looking at alignment across every classroom. If you're in a 3-year-old classroom and your child is scored such and such a way, and then they move up to a 4-year-old classroom and that teacher is scoring with a different lens or not the same expectation, then our data is, questionable, which one is accurate. So we're really looking at that. Monthly classroom data digs we're going to start implementing. So not only those periods where we're doing it 3 times a year, but every month having the teaching team sit down and say, okay, where are we on our core? What does that mean? Where do we need to go from here? And then something new we put in place this year, which is something very simple, but it has helped, our core completion target reminders. So obviously with a period and having a system, teachers could collect the data and put it in a notebook and not input it yet. But if you're not inputting it and you're not scoring it in a timely fashion, are we using it effectively, right? Are we indeed planning from it? So this year there have been almost bi-weekly core target planning. So for example, you should be at 20% completion by this Friday. You should be at 27% completion by this Friday. And what we found is that the teachers have it has helped them to be more on top of inputting and scoring the data, which allows real data in time to be used. So that has been wonderful. Perfect. So as an introduction to our student group presentation that we have tonight, I am sharing about our classroom lending libraries. So to give a little bit of background, last year Oakland Schools and GSRP received a grant. They were a recipient of a grant that provided all GSRP classrooms with 150 plus books, and the intention of the program was to allow families to increase literacy in the home and to allow families to be able to take home books and return them and support that learning at home. That was for GSRP classrooms only, and the GSRP classrooms ran with it. The feedback was wonderful. The families loved it. So it was something that was wonderful for those classrooms. With the support of the 35J grant and district support this year, we were able to provide the same classroom lending libraries for every class in the building this year. So where it was only 4 classrooms that had it, now all 11 classrooms have a lending library of 150 diverse, high-quality books for families to borrow and take home. With that, we have had Oakland Schools training for the staff to learn on how to effectively organize and implement the classroom lending library. It's not enough to just send a book home in a bag and, ask for it to come back a few days later. We really want to support families in being able to support their children in those early literacy skills and development. So telling them, this is what you can do when you are reading a book with a child, or ask these questions. So that has been wonderful, and I am honored to introduce to you tonight Miss Nina Thomas, one of our GSRP lead teachers. She is one of the GSRP teachers that obviously implemented the lending library last year, so this is year 2, but she's going to share how that's been going. Okay.
Hi, everyone. Like Miss Heidi said, I'm Nina Thomas. This is my second year doing the Lending Library program. Some of you are familiar out there looking. So the Lending Library program has been a really awesome addition to our curriculum and just our school in general. Like Miss Heidi said, there's 150 books that have been shared with our classrooms, ranging from like multicultural books, emotions, families, favorite characters such as Elephant and Piggy, Pete the Cat, Jabari, friendships they talk about, and as well as like academic skills like patterns, shapes. We have some yoga books. So there's a really diverse group of books that are shared with our kids. And a lot of the books that we have are books that like I probably wouldn't check out at the library with my child, you know? There are different types of books. So that's really amazing for us. In our class and the other classes, each week the kids are allowed to take home a book and we check it out, and we use a program called Book Source, and we check the books out. And what's really nice about the program is we can see which books the kids read. So we're able to implement those books in, you know, reading them for the class or, you know, bringing them back out, because we don't put all 150 books out at one time. We kind of pick some, and then in our class we rotate them every like 2 months. As you can see, I've shared some pictures. So the big bottom picture is my assistant teacher and our student teacher pick our favorites for the month. So we kind of highlight those books as those are our favorites. So we try to read those books with the kids, and as well as every Monday we read a book from the Lending Library to kind of get the kids excited about the books. And we're like, this is part of our Lending Library. You guys can choose to take this book home. And then we also allow the kids to look at the books like after rest time or before they go home. So just they're experiencing the books, and we can read them to them then. But also, if they don't get a chance to take them home, they're still getting the books. So I don't know if you can read, but we do have some quotes. One of them is, "We love the Lending Library. We look forward to picking our new book every week and looking forward to sitting down and reading them together. My daughter attended last year at FECC, and she remembers some of the books her sister brings home. It has interested them in becoming library members, and the care we have to give to books to really share with others." Another one, "We love the Lending Library program. My son loves to pick out our new books each week, and this has been a really great experience for our family." So as you can see, it's really bringing joy to the kids, these books. It's getting books in their homes. It's a really great program. And I have someone here to share. Jack, do you want to share anything? No. Okay. Well, Jack is pictured on our screen, as you can see. He said he really likes the Elephant and Piggy books. So. But thank you all.
Thank you.
Jack, are you sure? Before we move on, you're all set? Okay, just making sure.
You have a favorite book from the book bag?
Said I'm all set. All set. We'll talk later.
All right. Thank you. That brings us to item 3, the Plant Moran audit presentation.
Jack probably doesn't want to help with the presentation, I'm guessing.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having us. My name is Kimber Smale. I'm with Plant Moran, and with me is Christy Godley. We are here to report on the results of the district's 2024 audit. But before we have a presentation prepared. Before we do that, though, we do want to give a huge shout out to Dawn Huntley and her entire business office. So So I don't know how many of you have encountered audits or getting ready for audits, but we ask for lots of information. We ask lots and lots of questions, as Dawn can attest to. And we know that's in addition to their everyday job. So we really appreciate all your assistance in successfully completing this year's audit. All right, so to start with our first slide here, just to give a summary of the audit, we did provide an unmodified or clean opinion, which is the highest form of assurance that we can provide on an audit. We didn't identify any material weaknesses or material instances of noncompliance. And then in addition to the basic financial statement audit, we also perform an audit over the federal awards, which we call the single audit. And so as part of that, we have to select a major program. This year, it was the Child Nutrition Cluster. And again, we didn't have any federal audit findings that we identified throughout our audit either. And then lastly, we also take a look at the bond and sinking fund compliance, and again, didn't identify any issues. So I want to pause there because that is a testament to the controls that are in place at the district. This year, we had a new standard that we had to adhere to, which was called SAS 145. And it really required us to take a deeper dive, even than we have in the past, over internal controls. And so to say to the fact that there's been no material instances of noncompliance, even under that higher level of scrutiny, is really truly a testament to the controls that are in place and that are continually monitored by the district. So nice job. I am going to turn it over to Christy to talk about some of the exciting fun slides that we've got here on your general fund revenue and different expenditures.
Yeah. So this is first looking at your general fund revenue and other financing sources. So this is a side-by-side comparison of last year's numbers versus this year's numbers. So this is showing you had an increase in revenue of about $3 million from 2023. This was mainly driven by state aid categoricals. So to kind of break down what this pie chart is getting at, the blue section, which makes up the majority of your revenue, is your largest revenue source, is coming from the state. That's about 48% of your revenue. That's primarily your state aid membership, which a portion of that is your foundational allowance, which is driven by pupil counts. Then your other remaining sources, so the orange, yellow chunk is going to be your property tax revenue. And then you'll also see you have orange, which is representing kind of other state, local, inter-district sources. That's going to be made up of kind of some other state aid categoricals that may be restricted to other sections, and your special education millage and any proceeds from sales of assets. And then kind of the last piece I want to talk about is your federal revenue, which is the small blue piece. That is about $3.4 million this year in revenue. 1.4 of that is actually related to the ESSER grants that are done after this year. There's like a little bit of a spending window into the next fiscal year, but after that, that is done. And then whatever is past that is your other standard grants, so your IDEA, title, and then child nutrition cluster. So next we're going to switch into general fund expenditures and other financing uses. Same thing, we have 2023 as well as 2024 to show you. So again, we see about a $3.1 million increase in expenditures, kind of mirroring your increase in revenue. The biggest chunk is made up of your instruction and instructional support services, really showing that your funds are being spent in your classrooms, directly benefiting your students. And on the next slide, we'll end up seeing a different type of breakdown, but just kind of overall, you're fairly consistent in your percentages and how you're spending your funds. So if you want to go to the next slide, looking at the same numbers, we break this up by a different way to look at it. This is looking at the objects, looking at how the money was actually spent in those functions that we just saw. So the biggest components are going to be your salaries and wages, your benefits, making up a significant portion of your expenditures, and then following that with purchase services, supplies, and capital outlay. Similar to the previous slide, you guys stay very consistent in the categories you're spending in, really getting that to the best use. This slide is showing your non-recurring COVID expenditures and awards. There's a few not pictured that were just fully expended in the previous years, including CRF, ESSER 1, and ECF that were all expended prior to 2022. This was just to high level show you what COVID funding you've received and how they've all been spent, really highlighting that you have received a lot and you have spent almost all of it. And like I just said on the earlier side, the COVID grants are done. There won't be any more, so they're non-recurring. This year you spent about $1.2 million in mainly ESSER 3 and 11T. And there's a few other current year ESSER expenditures related to 98C learning loss, ARP homeless 2, and then future for frontliners of a little under $200,000. And now we're going to look at the balance sheet of the district, look specifically the general fund still, looking at the breakdown of just your snapshot of what the district had as of June 30th, 2024. So first, if we look at the assets on the left-hand side, you'll see it's mainly made up of cash, receivables, and other. The cash and investments is mostly comprised of your Comerica investments. Receivables is primarily your state aid receivable. About $6.5 million is for what you're receiving in July and August for fiscal year 2024. And then the other category is just covering your inventory and your prepaids. The chart on the right will show your liabilities, which total about $7.2 million. $3.6 million, which is about 51% of the liabilities, is actually your accrued payroll liabilities for employees paid in July and August. And then you'll also see you have accounts payable, and then the other category is really going to be your deferred revenue. And then the difference between these two charts is about $11.8 million, and that's going to be your fund balance, which we'll see on the next slide. So this just breaks it down to show kind of how your balance sheet and income statement will lead you to where you're currently at for a fund balance of June 30, 2024. So we'll have the starting number of $10.2 million for fund balance from last year. You'll then increase that with the current year increases. So the $50 million and $49 million is the revenue, and the expenditures that we already covered on the earlier slides will get you to that $1.5 million increase as your revenue exceeded your expenditures, to then show that you have an ending fund balance on June 30th of $11.7 million. The bottom part of this table then breaks out your fund balance into different components, which is required. So first you have the non-spendable component that's related to your inventories and prepaids. You've already spent the funds. It is considered a non-spendable component as you wait to recognize it the next year. You also have an assigned fund balance related to fiscal year 25's budget. There was, where expenditures exceeded revenues, we assign a portion of your fund balance to cover that difference for the year under audit for fiscal year 24. And then the remaining balance at $9.2 million is your unassigned fund balance, which is just your remaining fund balance. Just to put it in perspective, because I know that's just a lot of numbers without a lot of context, the fund balance as a percent of expenditures is about 24%. The MSBO guide recommends 15 to 20%, and then the 2023 statewide average is about 22%. So you are just above the statewide average and well above what MSBO is recommending. I'll give it back to Kimber.
So this next slide is just another look at your general fund balance for the past 10 years. So really shows from 2015 all the way up to 2024 where fund balance has come to. So as you can see, fund balance continues to increase. And I think that's super important because when you look at the fund balance, it really provides the district with that operational flexibility. If there's any differences than expected with state funding or whatnot, you have that fund balance that's set aside. And then the next slide takes a look at student enrollment over from 2015 to 2024. The blue bar represents your spring count. And then the orange bar would represent your fall count. So you can see if looking at the past few years, enrollment really has steadied. You see it ranged, when the fall counts from about 3,100 to 3,131. And going back to what Christy said earlier, when you think about that pie chart, and we saw the blue part of the pie chart, which was state aid, your pupil count is very important because it's driving that state aid number that you saw in that first or second slide. So that's all of the formal remarks that we had prepared. Open it up for questions if there are any.
I am curious if we know, because I know this was part of the discussion last week, is that discussion of assigned and non-spendable versus unassigned. When we're looking at the ending fund balance from 2023 of roughly 10.2 million, do we have an idea of how much out of that was assigned or non-spendable?
I don't have, do you have prior year statements? Within the prior year financial statements, if you look
Okay.
at the general fund balance, it'll show that breakout
Right, good point.
for you. I just don't have it handy
yeah.
right away, but that would show the breakout of how they compare year over year. So I don't have a copy of the 23 handy, but. Yeah. But we can get that for you if that's helpful too. It's in prior year's report, so.
That's okay. More for a later discussion.
Any other questions?
Again,
Thank
thank
you.
you. Again, we appreciate the opportunity to serve the district, and thank you, Dawn.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna call a quick audible and move part of the superintendent's update up. Sorry. Go.
Thank you for that audible. There are some very special guests in the audience, and I would like to acknowledge them before we go through the rest of the agenda. So, every week, we have nominees that are nominated for staff members that represent Eagle Excellence. When we thought that it would be wonderful to publicly acknowledge them for the excellence that they display in and out of the classrooms at our board meetings as well. So we are going to call up a few of our Eagle Excellence representatives, of our awardees, and give them a very public and special acknowledgement. And we're going to begin with Mr. Dex.
So I'm going to read to you the Eagle Excellence Award that Mr. Dex received. The Division of Operations is proud to recognize Robert Dex, our dedicated maintenance supervisor, for his outstanding contributions to the district. With a commitment to excellence and a keen attention to detail, Robert has played a key role in ensuring our school facilities are well maintained for students and staff alike. Robert has a proactive approach to maintenance combined with his problem-solving skills, has helped address routine maintenance and more complex facility needs with urgency. Robert and his team, Mr. Walker and Mr. Wilkins, work tirelessly, and we appreciate everything they do to keep us safe. We are grateful for Robert's hard work and leadership, and we applaud his ongoing commitment to Ferndale Public Schools. Thank you, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Dex. We'll do them all together. It's a few more. We'll do it. Mr. Dex, if you don't mind just standing, we'll present you with your pen and take your pictures. Thank you so much. Next, we'll have Ms. Brimacone. So I will read Ms. Brimacone's Eagle Excellence presentation, which is Brooke Brimacone exemplifies Eagle Excellence through her unwavering dedication and innovative approach as a ninth grade English teacher at University High School. She consistently finds creative ways to engage her students, making learning both enjoyable and impactful. Beyond the classroom, she works tirelessly throughout the school year to organize and facilitate the senior celebration events, including senior pinning, decision day, prom, and graduation. Ooh, you are tired. Ensuring that these milestones are memorable for students and their families. Additionally, she fosters a sense of community and belonging by planning enriching, culture-building field trips for the junior and senior classes, including their recent visits to a local site of them. She is an incredible member of the UHS team who is always willing to lend a helping hand. Ms. Brooke McComb. Thank you. Next, we have lots because we have so many excellent staff. Ms. Coram. Samantha Coram works hard to provide engaging and meaningful projects for her students. From hands-on activities to interactive projects, Samantha makes science come alive, encouraging students to explore and ask questions. She connects with students and fosters a supportive environment that empowers students to think critically. Her creativity and participation in Spirit Weeks is motivating for her teammates as well as her students. Samantha received an outstanding teacher recognition from Project Lead the Way as well. Samantha is a remarkable educator whose passion and dedication have a lasting impact on her students. She is truly an asset to Ferndale Public Schools, and I wholeheartedly believe she exemplifies Eagle excellence. Thank you, Ms. Cole. And last but certainly not least is Ms. Moylan. Ms. Moylan? All right, we have our 3 Eagle excellence right here. Thank you so much.
So guys, can we come over this way? Stand there. Towards the backdrop of.
Be photo ready?
3, 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, item 4, second semester School of Choice University High School presentation.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Bringing back for approval, request to open second semester School of Choice for University High School with a limited enrollment window of December 9th through December 20th. And I will just read into the record the request and answer any questions. Request A, approval to participate in Schools of Choice, Section 105 and Section 105C for the second semester 2024-25 school year according to the criteria noted below and pursuant to the parameters set by the 2024-25 Michigan Department of Education Pupil Accounting Manual. That University High School accept a limited number of students for an enrollment window from December 9th, 2024 through December 20th, 2024 for the grade levels as follows: 9th grade, 10 seats, 10th grade, 10 seats, and 11th grade, 10 seats. Any questions?
Mr. Tolbert, you need us to vote on this?
Just so that we can accept the students, yes.
It's not in the action items.
I move that we update the agenda
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
to add an item 8.3 for second semester School of Choice window and seats.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, so we're gonna add item 8.3, request to approve second semester school of choice at UHS. Okay. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd, thank you.
Elder,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Natasha,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
Siglera,
Yes.
President Dookie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the motion passes and the agenda item is added. Just- All right, that takes us to item 5, fall benchmark data presentation.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Sorry about the tardiness of the slides and getting them to you. They're actually done on time. The format being in Canva was a little bit difficult, and I apologize for that. We'll definitely get more on top of that next time. Do we have static slides, or do we have a link to the Canva?
I have a link for the Canva.
Awesome.
It's coming right now.
Okay.
So this fall, we administered a couple of benchmark assessments. As you may or may not remember, you approved moving from NWEA to iReady. So we administered iReady diagnostics, math grades kindergarten through 10th grade, reading grades 2 through 10. Like NWEA, iReady is an adaptive test, so the more questions students get right, the more complex and challenging the questions become. If students struggle, then the complexity decreases. Really trying to find the performance level of the students as opposed to, percent right or wrong. In addition to iReady diagnostics, we administered the Acadience, which, if you're familiar with Dibbles, Acadience is just the new name for Dibbles. We administered that as a reading assessment, grades kindergarten through 5th grade. Instead of going through all 38 slides, I thought that I would just kind of do a summary. Why are you laughing?
Because I'm excited that it's 38.
Come on, it's down from 104, so come on. So I did want to just kind of do a summary, but of course give you a chance to ask any questions that you might have regarding this slide. So summary of our results. We're treating the fall of 2024 as a new baseline. Since we're starting a new assessment platform and program, it makes sense to kind of reestablish a new baseline. We did see pockets of success, especially grades kindergarten through 3rd grade, but unfortunately historical gaps remain present. Both reading and math showed dips when you get into grades 5 and up. One of the nice things was that there's a relatively close alignment between the iReady reading and the Acadience. So if you look at the percentages of students at or above grade level, within 5 to 10% in iReady and Acadience. So, and the last thing, you already knew this, but we've got work to do. Our next steps, to make sure that we get maximum benefit out of iReady, you've invested a fair amount of money in training for staff. That includes administrators and teachers. so that when they have the results, they can actually do something productive and useful with them, other than me just sharing them with you at the board meeting. We've already had 2 rounds of training. We'll have another round of training in January after the winter window closes, so that the teachers will have some solid ideas and strategies for taking the fall to winter growth data and acting upon that. We were able to upload iReady scores into iXL, so every student has a personalized prescription based on their iReady results. So we'll have some, very appropriate, just within reach skills for students to be working on. We are working with Oakland Schools for math instructional support. Last year, the support came at grade 6. This year, it's grade 4. So we're really hoping to see similar results to what we saw in 6th grade last year, this year in grade 4. We also have teachers from Ferndale Middle School, University High School, and Ferndale High School participating in a math instruction grant. If you're familiar with state grants, it's 23H. It's the 23H math instructional grant. We are also partnering with Oakland Schools on universal design for learning and disciplinary literacy training to increase access to and depth of content that students interact with. We are continuing our literacy essentials work with Oakland Schools and letters training for literacy instruction for staff. And finally, we are building capacity at the school level to own their own data and progress through the MyKit process. A couple weeks ago, we met with teams from each building and kind of presented the idea that instead of central office saying, hey, here's what each building needs to work on, the district is now setting the goals, the same goals that we've had, improvement in math achievement, reading achievement, and social emotional learning. Exposing building staff to as much data as we can, and letting the buildings decide which data they feel is most important and how they're going to interact with that data. To that end, on December 12th, each building will be presenting short 10 to 15 minute data presentations with growth plans and actions at our next district-wide MTSS and MyKIP, which is Michigan Continuous Improvement. So we'll get to hear their plans, and instead of us kind of dictating, we're going to try and take on more of a supporting role, and do everything we can to support the buildings. And this is all based on some research that shows that the real change happens at the building level when the district is supportive, as opposed to when the district kind of says, hey, this is what we're doing across the district. So that's kind of where we're at in our next steps. We can go through as many of the slides as you want. I know there was one question about the layout of the data, so if we want to address that question, happy to do that now, or if the email response was enough.
Tom, I'm sorry, if we can just pause really quickly.
Yeah.
I think that the principal presentation is really powerful and a new piece. I also wanted to touch on that they will not only do the data presentations now based on fall data, but we will also do it as well in spring, because we want to see where that growth was based on the areas that they selected as the areas of improvement in their buildings. So again, as Tom said, that research around the piece of we see the most impact when the buildings own the data is something that we're really leaning into, and we do expect that to lift that so much more this year. So we're really hopeful about that fall to spring growth, but we'll also be looking forward to fall growth and fall to, so we'll have more iterations of what that growth will look like. So I just wanted to hover over that because I thought that was important.
Thank you.
I think you should go over the question.
Okay, all right. So on this slide, there's a similar slide for 2nd through 8th grade reading, K through 8th grade math, and then high school reading, high school math. One of the beauties of switching to iReady and moving to iReady at all 3 of the high schools is we're bringing TCEC into our data conversations more so than we've ever been able to in the past. All right, so what we're looking at on these summary slides, all of the grades, first column, average percentile. In general, the higher the percentile, the better. If you're above 50th percentile on average, you're doing pretty well. Okay? Moving left to right, percent of students at each grade level, on grade level, above, then 1 grade level below, 2 grade levels below, and 3 grade levels below. One of the interesting parts of iReady data reporting that I didn't know when I put this together, I would have changed it. Students are actually expected to test 1 grade level below in the fall. Because iReady it starts them with grade level content. So if I'm a 4th grader on September 4th, I have not seen much 4th grade content, right? But because I'm a 4th grader, it's still reflecting me, even if I'm proficient in all 3rd grade content, it's showing me as not at grade level. So really, when you're looking at the fall data, you want to look at 1 grade level below and up as being in a really good spot. Okay? The next set of slides are grade level breakdowns, and I think this is where the confusion came, and I apologize. I'm actually going to go to the board.
Teacher.
Yeah, well, there's no way I was going to explain this from the back. So the first column, overall percent of grade at each performance band. So this column will add to 100%. That's the only column that's adding to 100%. After that, we're looking left to right. So for each of our performance bands, we're looking at males and females, looking for gaps, or other gender gaps, or their socioeconomic gaps, et cetera, et cetera. So we can see there are some gaps, and most of our gender gaps tended to occur either above grade level or way below. The middle performance bands tended to be relatively equal. Quick caveat on the racial breakdown, because we do have students who report other races, those will not add up to 100% all the time. Okay? Our economically disadvantaged, and then our residency demographics there. So I just wanted to, a quick overview, first column down, and if it's easier, if it makes more sense, I can quickly convert these percentages back to numbers so you can see, okay, this is 13 students, and then the percentages, and related to that, some of our discrepancies or gaps are more a manifestation of small numbers of students. Okay? When there's 4 students here, it can be a difference of 2 students when you're looking at the numbers, but percentage-wise, it can be greatly skewed. So I just wanted to highlight that as the question that came in. What other questions might there be?
Can you go back a slide, please? This number grows the longer they're here. I don't know if it's really a question, it's more of a highlight. Yeah, I haven't looked up. So I didn't look at, I did look at this when we got it, but then, I was going through and that's where the question came about the other stuff. Seeing this on a bigger slide, a bigger screen. Yeah, I agree, we have work to do.
If I can piggyback off of it, I feel like it's that same of like, when you look at the 2 grades below to 3 grades below, it's that the kids that start to get behind, continue to, like, even more continue to fall off. It's just, yeah.
With that line, can we ask to see, or basically, my question is, what do you think when you see that?
That third, the three or more grade levels below it is right. I think with this and most data, it's not those numbers that are going to give us any answers. It's what's 2 or 3 layers below that. So when I look at that, the first thought I have is what are those layers?
Okay.
What questions do we need to ask at the classroom level that will help us answer the question of why do we see these numbers increasing in the categories that we don't want to see them increasing. So that is definitely part of our, that's part of the work that we're supporting buildings with. Again, when we look at this at this level, the educators speak as it's the 30,000 foot view, right? 30,000 foot view of data doesn't change student achievement. We got to get down to the street level, the classroom level, and that's part of our charge right now is to make the time to have the conversations with the teachers, with the principals, to find out what's going on that's causing that.
Can we go to the next slide? So then after we did that, as Tom, you came up here and broke this down, I also want to highlight this piece, because we need to talk about this, because this debunks a myth. So we often hear that the kids that are struggling the most are not our own children, and this shows the exact opposite.
Yeah, so that's a really good point. I think that column highlights 2 things for me. One, that you're absolutely right. We have students who we're not meeting where they are, regardless of whether they're residents or schools of choice. The other thing that I think that those 2 final columns kind of show is that there's really not a gap in our residents and in our schools of choice students, because when you look at those percentages, one, they're relatively constant, right? I see a lot of 70s and 80s in the residents and the schools of choice. So there would be a gap if those percentages were drastically different than our enrollment, right? Now I actually meant to connect with Rob. What's our schools of choice percentage, roughly? 30. Okay, so the fact that the schools of choice number tends to be 20-ish would actually say that we're doing pretty well with our schools of choice students. If those numbers were 70-30, we'd say, hey, we're the schools of choice doesn't matter. The fact that the schools of choice column in many cases in the 20%, that says that we're doing a good job with our schools of choice students.
Can I just ask for any chance to flip the on grade and above grade level? Just when you do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just.
Yeah, I agree. I got like 3/4 of the way down, like, what?
He's like, I'm already.
Sorry.
Yeah, I totally get it. I keep having to do it.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, I'm not going to be sorry, no.
Any other questions?
Just grade 3. Similar story.
Yeah, I mean, the main reason for not going slide by slide, well, 2 really. One is baseline, so there's not a lot of reflecting back to do on this. But again, like the second reason is similar story pretty much across the board.
I have a question. Is this the first time you've seen this data? Maybe those of you who've been on the board for a while, is this the first time you've seen the data broken up by resident and school of choice? No. Okay. Does it look the same relatively?
Yeah.
So we've always supported school of choice. We've always supported.
When the buildings are going to say, here's what we found and here's our goals, are they presenting to us or to you guys?
To us, but we will, so if you recall last year where we kind of had the principals do like a reflection piece, we will, I'm planning to share that information with you all, because I really would like for the spring, the growth presentation to be public and what you all see, unless there is another format that you'd like for us to.
No, you answered my question.
Yeah, we kind of had the brainstorming session too late in the game, but definitely the plans are moving forward, that instead of me presenting benchmark data 3 times a year, we'll have principals here or representatives from each building kind of sharing their take on the data.
Okay. I like it.
And I just want to say publicly, we're recording, that the intent is not for it to be anxiety inducing. It is to be more aligned to our pillar around transparency.
Flashlight.
Data is a flashlight.
Data is a flashlight, yeah.
And I'm sorry, just because iReady's new, can you remind me again, compared to NWEA, iReady is, you answer so many questions, you have so much time, or like NWA you kept going until they like
Yeah.
figured out where you were, so you could go,
Mhm.
some kids could go multiple days doing
Yes.
them. How is iReady?
Very similar.
Okay.
It's, iReady is a more updated test than NWA. A lot of times when you're the first one to market, a few years down the line, you're kind of long in the tooth and you're ready for a refresh. And that's where NWEA is right now, in my opinion. iReady has more engaging questions, more engaging graphics, but it's the same, I'm not gonna say same algorithm, but same type of algorithm. So it's trying to find the level of the student. It is an untimed test. It's, you know, if you listen to iReady, they'll say 45 minutes to an hour to take the test. You listen to a lot of the teachers, they'll say 3 to 4 days. But you know, there again, we've had this conversation before. It's a very different test than a classroom test for a lot of students, right? When I sit down to take a math test or I do a spelling test or whatever, like, my expectation, my hope is to get 100%, right? So when you're taking an adaptive test where the algorithm is to get 50% right and 50% wrong, that can be really daunting for a student, especially for a student who's used to getting everything right. So we really have to do a better job of over-communicating the difference between a classroom assessment and these benchmark assessments so that we can get the students past that point of being afraid to make a mistake and just, hey, you know, I don't know this one. Here's my best answer, and I'm moving on. Did I answer your question? I just rambled.
Nope, that's what, I'm also thinking like, again, having a couple middle schoolers and how it's different from when you're in elementary where you've got like your one teacher, maybe your two, and how you've got a class
Yep.
period to take it. And just how different it may be in that situation versus like elementary, and does that affect at all how we see kids taking it? If it's kids rushing through to be able to get done to just hang out, or if it's kids that, you know, just don't feel like they have enough time because they don't want to get into the next period or get behind.
Yeah.
To that point too, is I've also been thinking a lot about, like, there's a window that you can take the assessment, right? So if this is my first time in middle school, week 3 is very different than week 4. You see what I'm saying? So is there something to say about when in the window it's taken specifically at those like transition points? It's something that I've been thinking about too. But I'll say like the window is developed, like iReady gives very strong recommendations about the length of the window. So while we can and we do set the window, they share very clearly what they think it should be. They talk to us about how many weeks in between the assessments, so how many weeks in between fall and winter, winter to spring, et cetera. And we are aligned to their recommendations, but it's just something to me, again, just thinking about those transition points specifically, week to week is very different. So
Yeah, and
Something
the
else.
beginning of the year can be really awkward to be taking a test. Hi, I'm Mr. Mace. Tomorrow we're taking iReady. But by the same token, we try and keep our schedules aligned. And for our elementary students in particular, MDE mandates that we're administering our benchmarks within the first 30 days of school. So we really don't have much flexibility at all, especially on the younger students.
Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thanks, everybody. See you in a bit.
All right, item 6, public comment. This is a time for public participation in the meeting. The Board of Ed intends for the public to have many opportunities to address the board and administration of their school district. These include email, phone calls, face-to-face meetings, community gatherings, public hearings, and other public meetings. We welcome individual and group input into the important issues that confront our schools. As noted at the top of the agenda, this is a meeting of the school board open to the public. We want to provide fair and impartial guidelines for participation as required by the Open Meetings Act to encourage transparency and equal treatment for everyone in attendance. We also recognize that an effective meeting facilitates better decision and promotes openness by allowing more people to stay for the full length of the meeting. To meet these goals, please note the following. We ask that you identify yourself and list contact information on a comment sheet to help administrators follow up with you on your comment. If you do not wish to do so in writing, please identify yourself at the podium, and if you need a response, please provide contact information with an administrator. I will call on people who have completed a comment sheet first. Each person will have one opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Comments or questions should be directed to the board president. Treasurer Siglerick will raise his hand when your time is within a few seconds of expiring. This period of public comment is both for non-agenda items and issues that are on the agenda. Public comments will end at the close of this part of the agenda. In the event that the number of people wishing to comment requires longer than 30 minutes, public comment will be temporarily postponed. Complaints about staff should be made outside of board meetings and should follow the applicable board policy. Please contact the superintendent's office if you have any questions regarding this item. The board cannot respond to complaints about employees in public. This is meant to promote fairness to the staff, person, and complainant. The Ferndale Public Schools community acts with great civility toward one another. Please help us to maintain that tradition during public comment. Anyone here for public comment?
I really liked you going through all of that.
Well, after I got about a third way through, I'm like, you know what, I'm reading this for nothing. I couldn't just call it quits, so.
I had the time.
All right, item 7, public comment is now closed. Item 7, consent agenda. 7.1, request to approve minutes of the special meeting Monday, October 7th, 2024. 7.2, request to approve minutes of the special meeting committee of the whole Monday, October 7th, 2024. Oh, yeah, we voted on something, okay. 7.3, request to approve minutes of the special meeting Friday, October 11th, 2024. 7.4, request to approve minutes of the regular meeting Monday, October 21st, 2024. 7.5, request to approve new hires, resignations, and transfers. 7.6, request to approve bills and accounts for October 2024. Does anyone wish to remove an item from the consent agenda for questions or discussion later? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda as approved.
So moved.
Moved by Peter,
A second?
seconded by Jonathan. Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Siglerick,
Yes.
Elter,
Yes.
Hart,
Yes.
Latash,
Yes.
Turner,
Yes.
President Dookie.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the motion passes and the consent agenda is approved. Item 8, action items. Please note that all action items being voted on tonight were discussed in depth at the Committee of the Whole meeting held Monday, November 4th. We invite and encourage community members to attend our Committee of the Whole meeting, which are also open to the public. Item 8.1, request to approve the personal finance proposal.
Hello again. Before I ask for approval, I did want to provide a quick update. If you remember, there was a couple of questions about AP Econ, like how would we do that? So I talked to the social studies departments at UHS and FHS, and we are currently not offering AP Econ. So at this point, it's a moot point. Okay? So with that said, I'd like to ask for approval of the previously discussed personal finance standards being embedded into our high school economics courses and increase the number of credits required for graduation by half. That does not result in any additional courses needed to graduate for any of our students.
I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8.1, the request to approve personal finance proposal.
I'll move.
Moved by Jonathan,
A second?
seconded by Jen. Any discussion on the motion?
Again, just thank you for fitting it into an already existing class, so the kids don't have to pick between band or
Right.
something else. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Roll call, Ms. Shepherd?
Hart? Yes. Natasha?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
Elter?
Yes.
President Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the motion passes, and item 8.1, request to approve the personal finance proposal is approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 8.2, request to approve the bond program contract recommendations for UHS summer renovations and addition.
Okay, this item was previously presented to the Committee of the Whole. In September, the district published a bid for UHS renovations and front office addition. Bids closed on October 2nd. Bids were published to 193 companies. We received 78 responses in the various categories that are outlined on the recommendation. The contract for bid package number 8 is in the amount of $3,379,372. It also includes an 8% contingency for construction. We're asking for approval of the board to execute the contracts with the various trades that are listed in the letter of recommendation.
I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8.2, request to approve the bond program contract recommendations for UHS summer renovations and addition.
So moved.
Moved by Jackie. A
So,
very quiet
second.
seconded by Sarah. Any discussion on the motion?
Excited for the work.
Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Natasha?
Yes.
Turner?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
Elter?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
President Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the motion passes, and item 8.2, request to approve the bond program contract recommendations for UHS summer renovations and addition is approved. Item 8.3, request to approve second semester School of Choice University High School. We already had the presentation, so I'll entertain a motion to approve item 8.3, the request to approve second semester School of Choice for University High School.
I'll move.
Moved by Jonathan,
Second.
seconded by Peter. Any discussion on the motion?
Standard.
Roll call, Ms. Shepherd.
Turner?
Yes.
Sigley?
Yes.
Elter?
Yes.
Hart?
Yes.
Natasha?
Yes.
President Hughes?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. With 6 yes votes, the motion passes. And item 8.3, the request to approve second semester School of Choice for University High School is approved. Item 9, Superintendent's Update. 9.1, Dynamic Plan. I'm going to just let you do your whole thing on your own.
Okay. Good evening.
Good evening.
First, thank you again for allowing the audible earlier. We were able to allow for families to get home for dinner and bath and homework and all of that. So thank you for that. Dynamic planning update. I'm very excited to say that all stakeholder input has now officially launched. What I mean by that is today, Dr. Peterson, who is our dynamic plan facilitator, was actually on site to begin our in-person stakeholder input sessions Today was board as well as district administrators. And then in the evening, we had our 2 family stakeholder input sessions in person. So we're very excited about that. Tomorrow, Dr. Peterson's focus will be on students. So she'll get a wonderful tour of all of our buildings where she'll be able to get in-person stakeholder input from students, even our littles. So it will be very, very interesting. Beyond tomorrow's in-person sessions, we do have virtual stakeholder input sessions for residents, non-families, businesses, as well as additional family stakeholder input sessions that will be coming up over the next week or so. So by the end of November, we will have wrapped up all of our stakeholder input sessions, as well as our survey, which launched today. The survey went out to students, families. It is on our website for non-family residents, the board, district administrators, all of our stakeholders received the survey as well. I would like to reiterate that even if you did participate in an in-person or virtual stakeholder session, please still do the survey. That is very important. We will continue to reiterate that, but I would like to publicly say that please still do the survey. All data is very, very valuable, so we would really appreciate it. It's a brief survey. I just took it, I think I took it in maybe 4 minutes. So unlike many of our previous surveys, it is very brief, but your input matters. But we're moving. We are definitely cooking. I'm very excited to dig into the data once we do get it. But I'm happy to answer any questions that we may have in this current phase 1 stakeholder input period that we're in right now.
I just want to add that going forward, the dynamic planning update will be its own agenda item. It won't be baked into the superintendent's update because there will be board members that will be sitting on that committee that will also be part of the update at meetings.
How did they go today with the ones that were in person?
They went well.
Oh, good.
Yeah. And it looked as if the parent, the family was well attended.
Good.
It was a pretty steady flow. There was a number, I think in total RSVPs in total for 2 sessions, we had about 47, I believe. But from what I understand, more showed up without the RSVP, which we welcome that.
Yeah.
Please come. Okay. But so far, so good.
That's awesome.
That's amazing.
That is it. I will keep the rest of my, I don't have updates, just more points of pride, so I'll save it.
Got it.
Thank you.
Item 10, informational items. 10.1, budget to actual report.
Hello?
Oh.
Oh, it's up there. And
Sorry,
This is going to be the, oh. So this is the budget to actual for October, the month of October 2024. And things are still rolling along here. Do you have any questions?
Anything you want to highlight, Dawn?
No, we have some increased fees. Most of it's due to the contracts that were renegotiated, the CBAs, and so that will be reflected in Budget Amendment 1. And other than that, there's not really.
Federal revenue, the difference in like 23 to 24, is that due to like the decrease in the federal revenue, like not using the ESSERs or things like that, or?
No, that's just basically when we've, well, it could be, it probably is part of it, and also when we submit our reimbursements, we have to like submit our budgets and whatnot to get the money, and so
Okay.
we just haven't done it.
Thanks, Dawn.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Number 11, item 11, consideration of any pulled consent agenda items. We had none. Item 12, our next committee of the whole is Monday, December 2nd at 6 PM. I will not be here, so Vice President Fulmer will run that meeting. Item 13, our next regular board meeting is Monday, December 16th at 7 PM. Item 14, Eagles Points of Pride. We're going to change up the order a little bit today. So we're going to hold Peter, so everyone else go.
I'll go, I have a quick one.
Go.
I wanted to give another shout out to Dawn and her team for another fabulous audit. It's not easy, and then this year was even harder, so thank you very much for keeping us in line.
I'll go. Also wanted to give Dawn a very big shout out on this audit. I know that there's a lot of work that goes into that, so just kudos to you. And then mine is also quick. The second one is just I'm very excited to probably same as Camille that we have started this dynamic planning with the stakeholders, and I'm just really excited to see what we get back from our community, to see how they feel about our district, strengths and weaknesses, and just really have a really set, strong plan for the next 5 years.
I'll go. Again, kudos Don and your team. And I just want to shout out all of the student athletes and extracurricular participants for an amazing fall sports and extracurricular season. And a special shout out to the girls volleyball team who did an awesome job this season. And I look forward to seeing how amazing they'll be next season.
Yes. District champs.
Yeah. I'll go ditto to Dawn and your whole team. I'm also going to say I know from our elementary up through our middle school, like our robotics, Lego League teams have done awesome at their competitions, whether it be winning or just being pointed out for the excellent things that they're doing and being able to explain what their coding is or things like that. I think is really amazing that we have kids that can do that. And then also same thing kind of along with the sports and that, just for the marching band who also did amazing with such a super young crew at their event that they just had. And then again to all the different fall sports just finishing up. I think we had an amazing season with everybody, so can't wait.
I'll go. I also wanted to shout out Dawn and her team because we all lived through it. Right, we all lived through it. So next year, preparing like for the next audit, because now we know how much information they ask of us. It's ridiculous.
You can't prepare now, they're going to ask you for different things.
Right, exactly. Exactly, mentally prepared. I also want to shout out the girls volleyball team. I got a chance to attend their regionals. When I tell you, they were phenomenal. I told Camille immediately, I was like, volleyball is going to be our thing this year. Like, we have to play volleyball as a staff, and we have to play under those volleyball coaches because they are rock stars. I loved it. I played volleyball as a middle schooler. I want to play now. I'm going to start rubbing up on the Bengay and be ready. And I also want to shout out the band. Another phenomenal performance. I don't think I saw any other band change as many times as we did. We had 2 or 3 changes during the performance. And when I just tell you, they were just phenomenal. And I'm not going to say anything else besides they were phenomenal, as always. As always.
Okay. So I have a few, and I could echo everything that everyone also said. I also want to shout out Dawn, but for something a little different. I got a letter in the mail that stated that Dawn has just received her MSBO certification. Can you share a little bit more about what that certification is? You can stay there, it's okay.
I got my Chief Financial Officer certification.
So it's just always very exciting that at every level we're continuously improving and wanting to develop ourselves. So I'm really proud that Dawn has taken the time to go through that process. It was long and very long, but I'm very proud, Dawn. You should be very proud of that certification. So kudos to you. I also had a chance to attend the National Honor Society induction at University High School. It was very, very exciting to see the inductees, the excitement, our leaders just ready to go, and just it was just an exciting time. So I was very proud to see those scholars and their parents being able to celebrate their successes. So it was a wonderful event. And then this is not finally, but the last thing I will say is I would like to shout out the staff at Fuel, because Fuel was awarded Michigan Heart Safe School Award from MDHHS. So essentially, the school has went through pretty significant training as well as signage to ensure that we are focusing on sudden cardiac arrest for children, and ensuring that we are aware and we're taking precautions. We know where the AED is. We have signage for anyone who's coming in to know where AED is. So they had to it was very compliance driven, but Fuel was awarded that award because of their compliance and commitment to ensuring that we were trained and aware of how to handle those situations. So we're very, very proud of Fuel and the entire team there.
No. I want to first shout out Miss Heidi and Miss Nina and all of FECC for the presentation, especially now as a fellow GSRP instructor, just really hearing that there's so much that goes into core, and there's so much that it can do to help instruction, and the way that they are leaning into it intentionally as an instructional tool, not just basically the preschool report card, is really cool to hear about. And I can imagine that helping out the teachers a lot, as well as with all the PLC around that for the reliability. And then what that does for the individualized instruction for those students, which anyone who's had or has a student at FECC, you know how strong they are with that. To kind of related to that point of being a new GSRP teacher, it is sad for me to announce that I am resigning as of this meeting from the school board, especially after yet another meeting where I'm enjoying my time so much at this table with these colleagues. I very much personally want to stay here just for how fun it is for me. But to our mission, we're reminded of every meeting of keeping students first. Knowing that this is such a critical time for the district as we are going into our dynamic planning phase, as we are doing more as a governance team, and our central administration is doing more to live into our values, to support our district. I know that this role is demanding more time than I see myself giving right now, and in the future as I am going back to school for everything I need to do for teaching. So I want to make sure that I'm putting our students first here in this district, first and foremost, by making room for someone who will have more time to give this seat the time that it deserves, as that's very important to me. And then to my students, putting my students first also in my classroom to make sure that I take the time I need to be the best teacher I can be, and my two little students at home as well. So my point of pride off of that is I am so incredibly proud of this team. I'm proud of how much we have all grown together. I think everyone who attends these meetings every day, because we have such a big following, right? They can see how much we've grown, both as a team of individuals and how we work with each other, but also I think in really the accountability and the elevation of leadership we've brought to the district, and I'm very proud of that work. And I'm so grateful for how much these relationships have grown me as a person, and yeah, make me a better community member, and are making me a better teacher as well. So cannot thank you all enough for the support and yeah, the opportunity.
So that's why I say Peter for last.
Yeah.
So my point of pride is going to be on Peter, because I could say thank you, Peter. You coming on the board challenged us in a different way than we were used to. And it turned out to be a good thing, because we not only keeping kids in mind, we also work differently as a governance team because of you. So I appreciate you making sure you put kids first, not only our kids, your kids, but also the kids you teach. And I know for you that this was a very hard decision to make. And I appreciate you recognizing what is most important are the kids in all areas of your life. So thank you.
Thank you.
And with that, we are adjourned at 8:51.